You're now watching Sports Bettor's Paradise on the BetRivers Network.
All right, Jimmy out along with Bruce Marshall talking some college football each and every week. Bruce gives us his best bets, 3 to 5 of his favorite bets here on the Sports Bettor's Paradise on the BetRivers Network. He's got 5 of them for you today, 3 totals in college football for this busy college football week. Let's start off in Norman, Oklahoma. Boy, the Sooners have been really good against the spread this year. Catching Central Florida at home, 18.5 for the Golden Knights. Central Florida, John Rice Plumlee has been in and out of the lineup for Gus Malzahn, who just got a new contract. Sooners at home here, 18.5. Bruce, they can smell that college football playoff.
Yeah, they can, and they'll probably get a rematch against Texas in the Big 12 title game, and that'll probably determine a spot in the Final Four, at least in Oklahoma's case for sure. But they get UCF here, and you talk about good scheduling here. Get a week off after that Texas thriller 2 weeks ago. Couldn't have been better place for Brent Venables, who I think is actually moving into Coach of the Year consideration here. What he's done to turn around the Sooners. Listen, it's fooled me. But the problem, it's shame on me, really, for not realizing the Big 12 was going to be a little bit down this year, maybe more than a little bit down. So some of those banana peels that Oklahoma kept hitting last year, they've been missing this year because some of those teams, the Baylors and the Texas Techs and the others, just aren't quite as strong this year. Now, and plus these new teams that came into the Big 12, like UCF, which has had a lot of trouble in its new league. They blew a game a couple of weeks ago against Baylor, up 35-7, and they lose at home. I think it sort of messed up the rest of their year. And John Rice Plumlee did come in for a little bit last week, and they lost another game last week, the Knights. So he'll probably be around more this week, but he might not be at 100%. He needs to be able to move, Plumlee, and he hasn't been able to do that quite as well with the knee issue here. So we'll see. Now, the other angle here, Dylan Gabriel facing his old school. Remember, he was at UCF and now at Oklahoma. And, oh, by the way, he's in the Heisman mix. I mean, he's putting up big numbers. And if Oklahoma keeps winning, he's going to be there. And like you said, they've been covering every game. I'm going to lay the points here. And UCF, like I said, it's really the defense has had a problem. They've had trouble in their new league here. I'll lay it with Oklahoma until further notice. So a Boomer Sooner for me on Saturday.
Yeah, Plumlee relies so heavily on his athleticism / mobility. So yes, if he's compromised there, it makes him. He's over the years he has gotten better. He has improved as a passer, but still, no, his best asset is his wheels. No doubt about that. So, nonetheless, Central Florida, again, 18.5. Oklahoma, again, covering the spread at a really, really high clip. A lot of them not even that close. Let's go to Maction, and we'll go to Bruce's favorite, Road Warriors, the Eastern Michigan, baby. Yes, indeed. They're on the road here, catching double digits in Northern Illinois. Northern 12.5 over Eastern Michigan in the MAC.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that Eastern Michigan thing in a minute. It is worth pointing out, Northern Illinois seems to have turned things around the last couple of weeks, and that was right when the heat seemed to be ratcheting up underneath head coach Thomas Hammock. And but they've won a couple of games in a row here in DeKalb, and last week an important one over Ohio U. So they have sort of picked up the pace. Although, if you look at them this year, they have not been getting what they hoped for from Rocky Lombardi, their quarterback, the transfer from Michigan State. Now, he missed much of last year, but they were expecting some bigger numbers from him this season. Only 6 TD passes, and here we are at the midway point of the season. And this is a pretty hefty number, but back to the feature here, like you say, it's Eastern Michigan plus the points on the road, and the MAC is an underdog. A lot of qualifiers there, but if they're a MAC road dog, 1-1 against the spread over the last 7 or so years. This is a credit to head coach Chris Creighton. You know, why is Eastern be able to do this, Jimmy? Well, they're functional. It's not flashy. I mean, they don't pass great, but they can pass the ball. And Austin Smith, the quarterback, is sort of a playmaker, and he hasn't been making mistakes. No picks the last 3 weeks. They're not a great running team, but they can run the ball. Jalen Jackson and Sansom Evans, a good one, too. And Evans was a 1,000-yard rusher last year. Defense not great, but functional. And you add it all together, and this is a very serviceable side that usually puts forth a pretty honest effort. Now, they do get outmanned sometimes, and they go out to the Big Ten. This year they They had trouble at Minnesota last year, at Wisconsin. But in the MAC, plus all the points, this combination seems to keep them within earshot, and that is a number we cannot ignore, Jimmy. The Eagles as a road dog in the MAC. Do it again this week, Jimmy. They're laying it out there for us. Give us 12 with Eastern Michigan, and I'm going to do it. And let's just see what happens. It's been a good way to go when the Eagles get points on the road in the MAC.
Yeah, 12.5 available right now over at BetRivers. Get extra value this football season with BetRivers Squares. Went up to $10,000 in bonus money. Bet $10 in same-game parlays on any game with the Squares icon to earn a square, brought to you by our friends over at BetRivers. Bama, Tennessee, Paul Stone gave us the side in this one. Bruce, you looking at the total here. Bama up to 9.5 now, 49 against Tennessee. New look Tennessee. Yeah, Milton's no Hendon Hooker. That is certain.
He's not, and it's not necessarily a pretty look, but it's an effective look. I mean, they found a way to win that game last week and cover the spread against Texas A&M. And of course, this is a rematch of third Saturday in October. It's a long history here. But last year's game, 52-49. I don't think we're going to get half that many points this week. It's a different year, different teams. You mentioned, Hooker not there, and Milton, Tennessee. Milton up and down. We've talked about him. They've been running the ball more effectively. Not as much last week because A&M was able to slow him down some, but that's what Tennessee is, more of a running team this year for Josh Heupel, as they've had to sort of switch gears, minus Hooker, who's now in the NFL and rehabbing a knee. But the interesting matchup here, I think, is this Tennessee defense, and we saw them come after Max Johnson big last week, and they call it the cheetah package up front. Fascinating matchup, them coming in with that track relay sprint speed in their pass rush against Jalen Milroe, who's got some speed himself. But it's a different sort of Bama team this year. This is more like an old-fashioned Nick Saban team, Jimmy. They're not going to do it the way they did with Bryce Young or with Tua or with Mac Jones or Jalen Hurts, able to comfortably throw the ball 40-plus times a game if they need to. The sweet spot for Milroe is probably about 18 to 25 per game. Control the game with running the football, occasionally have Milroe not make mistakes, and occasional big play with his legs, and then rely on your defense. It's an old-time Saban recipe. The scores are much lower, mid-40s last 2 weeks against A&M and Arkansas. I think probably the same thing here. My only concern is if Milton makes some mistakes, and then that may give Milroe a shorter field and help to increase Alabama's scoring. But if he doesn't, I think this is a close game, and it'll look a lot like these last couple Alabama games that were played in the low 20s. So I'm looking under here in a defensive battle, totally reversed from that game last year in Knoxville that went 52-49. This one doesn't even get half that far. So I'm looking under in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, Bama, no Bryce Young or Tua, at the trigger man. And so, yeah, and no Devontae Smith, Ruggs, Waddle, Jameson. Jameson Williams, so, and keep in mind, when Hurts was there, he was not a very good passer. But, yeah, they're going back. Only thing is, Tommy Rees, come on, man. Square peg into a round hole. Milroe is not a pocket passer. They insist on just using him in the pocket. I think they're missing out a little bit in utilizing more of his wheels and doing a lot more read option. Anyway, that's where you go. Bama, not your typical roster, period. And it wasn't last year. And Bryce Young kind of bailed him out because his level of play was so good. All right, Bruce, your hometown team, baby, Barry Odom, huh? Coach of the year, got a chance to go over the win total already in mid-October here. They're touchdown favorites, 7.5 actually, home favorites over Colorado State. 4 o'clock your time kickoff, UNLV against Colorado State. 7.5 and 64. Another one. We're repeating here. Paul Stone gave us a side. You're giving us a total. You're looking at the 64, the total as your pick here.
Yeah, I mean, Odom's turned out to be a great hire, and they're already getting worried here in Vegas about keeping him. all of a sudden the buyout wouldn't be that huge if somebody wants to come after Odom. And in retrospect, he didn't do that bad at Missouri, Jimmy. He deserves another shot. He's getting another shot at UNLV, but he might get a Power 5 shot pretty soon because he has put this thing back on track. What's impressive, now Odom, of course, is a defensive guy, but it's UNLV's offense. They call it this go-go offense, they call it. And they have lucked into a better quarterback situation with Jaden Maeva, the freshman who's actually from Las Vegas. He came in, he played a little bit in the first couple of games, but when Brumfield hurt his shoulder, in the Vanderbilt game, then it was Maeva's turn. He came in, hasn't looked back since, and they've scored 40 plus in every game except the Michigan game. And by the way, they did cover that one, like they've covered every other game, but they're scoring points like they're going out of style. They're running the football. Ricky White, a great downfield threat, Michigan State transfer, and Maeva is really a quarterback to watch. Now, the other way, I don't know if any of our watchers here on BetRivers stayed up and saw the end of that Boise State Colorado State game last week, because you could have gone to sleep, and I was shocked to see the score, but they scored actually twice in the last 2 minutes and three times in the last like 6 minutes to make up that deficit. But Boise, representative defense. It was a great rally by Colorado State. Some things are happening there for Jay Norvell. And actually, that game they lost a couple weeks ago to Utah State, weird. They were out 17-0 ahead after 5 minutes, and just the whole dynamic of the game changed. They are a different team with Braden Fowler, Nicolosi at quarterback. He can really whip the ball around with 14 TD passes in just the last 4+ games. And they can really score too. This total has moved up, Jimmy. Early in the week, about 61. Now, like you said, 64 at BetRivers today. But I don't think that's high enough. These teams are going over. UNLV, especially, is going over every week. And if they're going to be, these quarterbacks are going to be whipping the ball around the yard at Allegiant Stadium, it's going to go over again. So I'm looking over the total. This one, I hope it doesn't creep up too much higher, but 64 or so is still in range for another UNLV, maybe a cover, but certainly an over again in what should be a very entertaining Mountain West game in Vegas.
All right, 64 is where it is right now. UNLV, Colorado State total. Barry Odom, no doubt, man. What a job he has done. Lock, as of now, the midseason Mountain West Conference Coach of the Year. All right, Hawaii in New Mexico. I know as the play didn't help me out on my +6 in Hawaii going for the field goal when they were down 10. But that was a play over a minute to go to give them a chance and make the final score 7. They could not get the onside kick. They're 1-point favorites in Albuquerque against New Mexico. But the total here, another total, Bruce, 3 of your 5 picks are totals. You're looking at 60 is the over-under here.
Yeah, and I think this one is shaping up as an over as well. Hawaii's been trending that way, 5 of 7. They've played in the mainland before, so it's that they're used to that adjustment coming over to the mainland here. Braden Shager, their quarterback, already on 17 TD passes. He's en route to passing for 4,000 plus yards this season. Now they are not running it. This is a pure the June Jones red gun that Timmy Chang is using. It's all air, but they throw it, and they throw it a lot, and they're scoring points. And so, remarkably, is New Mexico. This is a different New Mexico side than in recent years. They actually have a quarterback in Dylan Hopkins, the transfer from UAB, a longtime starter at UAB, multi-year starter there at UAB, and he has given them something there at quarterback this season. And you look at New Mexico's score lines here, except for the New Mexico State game, the big rivalry for them. They've been going over this total every week. But the other thing about New Mexico this year, Jimmy, defensively, we were used to seeing New Mexico, for a team that had no offense, for the defense to still rank as well as it did at the tough positions they were put in recent years when Rocky Long was their coordinator, was pretty impressive. Last year, 45th total defense. That's not too bad. Long is now at Syracuse. And Troy Ruffett, his successor, has really had trouble maintaining that same level of play. They rank 110th in defense this season, so it's not the same thing. And we saw that last week. San Jose came in there and put 52 on the board. It's a different style of game this year with New Mexico, and Hawaii will oblige and be throwing and throwing and throwing. And these teams have been going over pretty consistently. So I don't think 60 is high enough. I don't have nerve enough to take either side here, but I sure have nerve to take the over here. So let's go over in this one down in Albuquerque. Rainbow Warriors and Lobos, a lot of points on Saturday night.
All right, 3 totals and 2 sides. Each and every week, Bruce gives you his best bets here in college football on the Sports Bettor's Paradise. For Bruce Marshall, I'm Jimmy Ott on the Sports Bettor's Paradise on the BetRivers Network.